news for you, folks. I was just talking to old man Potter, and he's guaranteed cash payments to the bank. The bank's going to reopen next week.
But, George, I got my money here. Did he guarantee this place?
Well, no, Charlie, I didn't even ask him. We don't need Potter over here.
I'll take mine now.
No, but you're thinking of this place all wrong, as if I had the money back in a safe. The money's not here. Well, your money's in Joe's house. That's right next to yours. And in the Kennedy house, and Mrs. Maitland's house, and 100 others. You're lending them the money to build, and then they're going to pay it back to you as best they can. Now, what are you going to do, foreclose on them?
I got $242 in here, and $242 isn't going to break anybody.
Okay, Tom. All right. Here you are. You sign this. You get your money in 60 days.
60 days?
That scene from It's a Wonderful Life is a great depiction of a run on a bank, or a bank panic. Toward the end of the 1920s, more than 5,000 banks failed. Historians disagree as to the exact causes of the Depression, but typically agree that prosperity was unevenly distributed in the 1920s, and easy money policies led to huge debt in the American public sector. In this video, we'll examine the causes and effects of the Great Depression. In the previous presentation, you started a KWL chart. I asked you, what do you know about the 1920s? Then I asked you, what do you want to know about the 1920s? Before we start this presentation, we're going to finish this chart, and I'm going to ask you, what did you learn about the 1920s? So without using your notes, list at least 4 things that you learned over the past 2 days about the Roaring Twenties. This can include events, people, or changes of policy or thinking. Now we're ready to start. In this presentation, we're going to talk about the transformation in the United States from prosperity to depression. We're talking about Goal 9, and in this presentation we'll deal with Objective 1, elaborate on the cycle of boom and bust in the 1920s and 1930s. The essential question we'll answer is, how did the prosperity of the 1920s give way to the Great Depression? One of the critical problems was caused by the purchasing of stocks. 2 terms you need to know are speculation and buying on the margin. Speculation is making high-risk investments in hopes of making high returns on their money. So the riskier the investment is, the more money people stand to make. Buying on the margin is buying stocks for only a portion of what they cost and borrowing the difference. So if you're buying on a margin, you might be getting a loan to buy the rest of the stock. As you know, the 1920s marks increased mechanization in our country. This is because of the increases in technology and the increase in use of machinery for production, which allowed manufacturers to produce more and charge less because they're more efficient. People began to purchase more cars, clothes, appliances, and other goods on credit. In other words, they borrowed money to achieve the American dream. This created a superficial economy. As you've learned, the other group of people that were severely affected during the 1920s were the farmers. During World War I, farmers did well because there was a high demand for their products. If you remember, we were shipping food and other supplies over to the Allies during World War I. After World War I, overproduction of farm products caused prices to fall. Many farmers could not repay their loans, and many lost their homes and their land. Consumerism also contributed to the problems of the 1920s. As you saw in the previous presentation, advertisers convinced Americans that they not only wanted, but actually needed certain products. In order to buy those products, companies offered an installment plan which allowed consumers to pay a little bit at a time. This is kind of like a store layaway policy. It meant that people could purchase more expensive items by paying a little bit at a time. So runs on the bank, consumerism, and problems with the farmers were all factors in the Great Depression. In the next presentation, we'll talk about the presidency of Hoover and how that led to the crash of 1929.